to this day, that is the most productive, creative, innovative team I've ever worked on. And you don't come by those teams or those people very often.
Honestly, one of the things I tell people, even if you are familiar with the agency, but definitely if you're not familiar, find a development program because it's something for everyone.
Welcome to the latest episode of No Such Podcast. I'm your host, Brian.
And I'm John.
And we are really excited because today we get to talk to two of our colleagues. Today you're going to meet Vanessa and Ashley, who have been with the agency for both a little over 10 years. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you here. And we want to learn all about what you do here at NSA, as well as, your journey to get here at NSA. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, you want me to jump in?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so my name's Ashley, and I've been at the agency this is my 11th year, I think. I know, so no. So how did I hear about the agency? I had no clue NSA existed when I was looking for a job. So my brother at the time was a police officer. So he was like, oh, well, we're hiring for police officers. And I'm like, I don't want to be a police officer, but I'll look at other opportunities. So I just started applying for all these different jobs. And at that time, I knew Vanessa worked there. But Vanessa is way more technical than me. So I was like, yeah, I can't do that. But there was some technical writing positions available. So I majored in communications. Not saying I'm the best writer, but I was like, well, let me try it. So I applied for that. And then lo and behold, I got into no such agency that I had to learn everything about. But it's been a good experience so far.
Okay. And how about you, Vanessa?
So, same thing with Ashley. I've never heard of the agency. So, it was kind of funny that my aunt actually, she was taking her daughter to a Women in Expo. And so I just graduated a couple of years from school. And so she asked if I could come join because she knew my major was computer science. I was like, sure, whatever. And so I went. And it was a lot of different agencies and companies there. And so when I was there, this agency approached me. We were just talking. I was just in the back and we were just walking around. And then when I was in the back, we were talking and the lady approached me and she was asking me my background. I was just talking about, what I've been doing. And she's like, oh, you may be a good fit at, this agency. And then she said it. And I'm like, NSA, I've never heard of NSA. She's like, really? You've never heard of NSA? I was like, no. I said, is it similar to CIA? I mean, that's the only thing we knew about in school. And so she's like, it's similar. And so it was funny. She just said, well, send me your resume. At the time, I was just a couple of years into where I was currently working. I said, okay, fine. And then literally a few weeks later, I sent her my resume. And then I had some interviews. And she wrote me back and said, I think you'll be really good for these positions. And so I was like, okay, I'll apply. And then here I am.
And how long have you been with the agency?
I've been here, 13 years, I think, 2011.
Okay.
Yep.
I've only been here about 2 years myself, so I think I'm the newbie in the group
Wow,
here.
yeah.
So just looking back, do you remember kind of how you felt when you did the application? Because, my process took about a year between the interviews, the application itself, the background checks, et cetera. And I was pretty nervous the whole time because I didn't really hear too much about what was going on behind the scenes. So how did you feel?
Anxious, right? Because it's like graduating from school, having that first real job. I had some side gigs, which I don't consider them a real job, but just anxious. Like, okay, well, am I getting the job? Am I not?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to reach out too much, right? Because then they're going to be like, oh, she's annoying. She's not going to get the job. But very anxious because the process was so long. But when the time came, I was like, really, really, really excited. Again, I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know about all the great things that the agency offered at the time. So now that I'm here, I don't see myself leaving.
Did you have a mentor when you came in? I'm assuming Vanessa.
Yes, you were a mentor, Vanessa. Yeah, I did.
Whatever. She's so great.
But when I first started, no, I didn't. Even in school, they talk about having mentors, but sometimes those things go in the ear and out the other. But coming into the agency and hearing our leaders preach about having a mentor and, a coach and different things like that, and learning about the difference between a mentor and a coach and why you need it and why the mentor can help you be successful, that's when I started diving and looking into it and figuring it out. And as I came across good people, right, I would say, hey, can I be your mentor? Can I be your mentor?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how I built my cadre.
So we talked a little bit earlier about your relationship prior to coming to the agency, and you all knew each other before coming to. Vanessa, how did you help Ashley when she was kind of dealing with that anxiety going through that process? And was it different from yours, or would you say it was similar?
Actually, mine was a little different. Like I don't a lot of times like telling my story because I didn't realize how much of an anomaly it is. Like, because mine was pretty, like, I'd never heard of it. I randomly met some lady. A couple of weeks later, I had, she sent me some jobs. And it was, like, really, really quickly, like, the process. And so my story was a little different. Like, I was in and interviewing within a matter of a couple of months. And even, like, my whole process maybe took, like, maybe 4 months, if that. And every time I say that, everyone's like, really? I'm like, I promise y'all. Like, I think I had, like, everything the same day. Like, I had a little lunch break, and then I think I did my poly and my test, my psych test. So that's why I told Ashley when she was going through something, I'm like, just relax, with the poly and everything, just relax and different things. But, the whole process was, I think, unique to everyone. So I think it just depends.
I mean, all in all, it's honestly not that bad.
Right.
Like I said, mine took a year, but it was the occasional email that I had to answer,
Right.
maybe, show up for the polygraph, which it is what it is.
I think on the outside end, it could be very nerve-wracking when you hear, oh, I got to do background checks. Right. And then you got to get a reference from every address that you live, all of those different things. And at that time, I was like, well, I was in school. I was in Winston-Salem. Who am I going to, let me call my roommate. And it's like people you probably haven't talked to in a while.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of information. But in the end, it's definitely worth it.
Oh, yeah.
But
And
of course, you're not thinking about that as you're going through trying to collect all the
'cause
data.
You don't know. You don't know the
Right.
why behind it.
Yeah.
Once you're in, obviously, you can see why they were doing it. It's like, okay, I could see it. It wasn't that bad looking back, but it can be intimidating,
I think that's what's kind of unique about our jobs. Like when you work with somebody at NSA, you instantly have a connection with them because you know that you all went through the exact same process to get into that place.
Right. The whole thing was just patience. Like with anything, you just have to have patience. And, once it's time, it's okay. Because I'm sure around that time, it's like, it's all right, you want to enjoy your vacation and different things anyway. So just take this moment, and do the things you need to do. So it all worked out.
And then when you got that letter or the email or the call and it's like, hey, we want you to come work for the NSA. Mm-hmm. How did you feel?
Woo, relieved. I got a job.
Exactly.
With the salary and benefits. So no, it was great, great feeling. And then the nerves come about, oh, okay, now we got to start. Now I need to get a wardrobe and, go through, I guess,
real
real
close.
That the time when we had 2 weeks of EODing, I think is when it was.
Which is entry on duty.
Entry on duty, sorry.
Which is what we all go through.
Yeah.
It's like an orientation, right? Yep.
Yeah, so it was definitely a sigh of relief once I got that final job offer. And it's like, okay, I'm good. Now then the next hurdle comes. It's like, right, now you got to learn the mission and learn the people. So, yeah.
Speaking of learning the mission, we have that 2-week orientation. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Now we have something called the First Two program. It's a sort of an extended 2-year, just introductory program to every different aspect of the agency where you can go out and, view all the different orgs, the different mission spaces. You get a chance to meet with various mentors, which I'm still actually in the process of doing. And it's been wonderful seeing all the different facets of the agency. Now, when you both came in, did you happen to do anything like that? Did you have any kind of development program that you might have participated in?
Well, yes, we did actually. And this is what I always say Ashley was my angel, because at the time, like I said, I started before Ashley, and it was a good first job, but I was still looking for something. I wasn't really sure what the agency had to offer. The space being new to me. And so when Ashley came in, I think I was like a year and a half. And then I don't know how she found out, but then she heard me talking and I was like, I wish I'm not really sure what to do. I don't know what they offer. She's like, oh, well, I'm about to actually apply for this development program. And then it offers a technical and a non-technical area. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Okay. So she was doing the non-technical, I was doing the technical. And so we joined the program together. And at the time, it was a 3-year program that had 6 months of rotating positions. And so that is how we started.
Yeah, and there was like she said, a practitioner track, which was the non-technical, and then the technical track.
Yep.
But a lot of the program, we did things together. But as we come up with the tours, right, of course, she would look for more technical tours and those type of organizations, and me the opposite, right, whoever was on that practitioner track. So it actually worked out.
So let's talk a little bit more about the development program. So you came from a communications background. You came from a computer science background. Talk through kind of the process of what all goes on in a development program. You had talked, I think, briefly about doing a tour. Can you walk us through a little bit of that? And then Vanessa, maybe you can talk about some of the tours that you did and the things that you walked away with when you attended those tours.
Yeah, so the agency has a bunch of different development programs for all different skill sets. My organization actually just went through a exercise where we gathered requirements that we want as an organization so that we can get some development program participants in. And there are about 15 to 20 or more development programs at the agency. So it's very competitive to get in. You have to meet certain requirements, and I know that's what we had to do when we applied as well. All development programs are different. There are different requirements that you have to meet when you are in the program. So in our case, if I recall correctly, we had to, find tours on our own, right? That kind of teaches us how to research and network and reach out to people. So we would have to, reach out to these different organizations. In addition to going on those 6-month tours, we had kind of like responsibilities within the development program. So we would have to report back to the larger group about the progress that we're making or what we're working on and come up with these different projects so that we're briefing each other on the different programs. So one, that they understand everything that we're doing on the tour, and two, if somebody else was interested, they could, they can learn about it and possibly reach out. And then there were certain requirements that we had to meet, certain tours that you had to meet in order to graduate. And I think your track actually had to do
Exercise.
exercise, yeah. But again, all development programs are different, but it definitely helps you from the networking aspect, especially since you're going from office to office, you're meeting tons of different people. And then at the end of the day, they're trying to recruit you, right? When you graduate, you have to find a home. So you want to make a good impression so that, somebody will hire you and want to vouch for you and things like that.
So Vanessa, you mentioned something about an exercise. Can you tell us a little bit more what was all involved with that exercise?
Oh, yeah, sure. So we had to, at the end, we had to go into a cyber defense exercise. And so we had to join either the offensive side or the defensive side, which is protecting the network, or you're acting like the adversary attacking the network. So what they wanted to see was everything that we've been learning throughout the program, putting into like a real-time, real world scenario.
Sounds like a great experience.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, looking back, are you glad you did it?
Definitely. It was honestly one of the things I tell people, even if you are familiar with the agency, but definitely if you're not familiar, find a development program because it's something for everyone. It was funny how Ashley brought me to the development program, but she found her position, her dream job in the second tour and then left me. I was like, what are you doing?
Oh, I was hoping we weren't going to go there, but yes. So, everybody has, everybody has a story, right? And I think that brings in the authenticity with everything, right? So, funny story, a producer on this show, I probably can't turn my head, but Nikki, I met her on my first tour, and that was on the IAD staff. So I did that for about 6 months, and then I found my next tour, which was in the Information Assurance Capabilities Office, and that was on their communications team. And I met some really, really phenomenal people. And to this day, that is the most productive, creative, innovative team I've ever worked on. And you don't come by those teams or those people very often. So again, that was my second tour. And ironically, I did get pregnant with my second child at the time. And so I had some hesitancy because I'm like, well, I don't want to start a new tour, then go out on maternity leave and, things that women, I'm sure I'm not the only one, think about, right? When they're starting a new job or things like that. And my mentor at the time, Sheila, hi Sheila, she was like, well, why don't you just stay? And I was like, I went back and forth for days, probably weeks. I had to reach out to people like, hey, do you think this would be a good idea? But I really think this team is great, right? I'm learning a lot. And at the end of the day, I ended up staying. So I did drop out of the development program, and I stayed with the team. And I think that was probably one of the best decisions that I made professionally, because I've grown so much from that, right? Of course, everybody probably turned their nose up, right? People probably had things to say. But when you have decisions like that on the line, you have to do what's best for you. And I think that's proof that nobody can say what's good for you or not, right? That has not hindered me at all in my professional career, in which I thought it would, but it didn't. And that was really actually a good decision. So I did not finish. She was like, don't leave me. I was like, sorry, girl.
Right.
I love this team. But yeah, that's just part of my story.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that, you became a mom again during the development program. I actually became a dad for the first time right as I was joining the agency,
Congratulations.
like within a month. And that was kind of an adjustment because, we work in secure facilities. I don't have my phone. I have very limited access to the outside world. As you were going through that, how did you make that adjustment? How did you balance, your work life with your personal life?
Work-life balance. I'm still learning it today. But the agency does a really good job at supporting that. And I think you just have to find really, really good leaders who support it and actually, do what they say, right? People can talk about it all the time, but you want those leaders who actually follow their own, what they're saying that you should do, right? So work-life balance hasn't been too much of a struggle. I am kind of a workaholic, but I have a supportive family and a supportive husband who is able to assist with the children and godmoms and friends and things like that, because it does take a village, right? I can't do everything on my own, and then you have the daycare and things. But you mentioned, not having access to the outside world. I remember that being a thing when we first started, and at first I was like nervous, and it took years to adjust to that, but I'm okay. I like being without my phone. You don't?
No, I'm not used to it.
Well, talk to us a little bit about working in a classified environment. We cannot bring our work home with us. We have security practices in place where that information is protected. One of those things is not bringing your cell phone in the job. A lot of people struggle with that. But talk to us a little bit about how you have managed to adapt to those changes where you kind of have to disconnect a little bit with the real world.
It definitely takes some getting used to. And honestly, I don't know if you ever get used to it. Like, that's what I was saying to Ashley. I'm not really used to it because I'm so attached to my phone. And it's not even like on any type of social media, but really it's everything. Like, I even think about Google, like when you mess up your password or something, you have to authenticate with the code. And I'm like, I can't run out to my car in 2 seconds to get the code. So it's stuff like that, that I it still takes some getting used to. And then, you have to give your number if doctor's appointments, and you don't want to talk about different things at your desk. So it definitely is. It's a process that you have to go through. It's a time that you have to go through, but understanding that what the mission is and understanding why we have to leave it in the car, it's definitely understandable. And you do get used to it in the sense of just leaving your, like, even if I go to the store, like sometimes I have to remind myself to take my phone with me because I'm so used to leaving it in the car. And we may even have lockers. It is what it is. That's what you sign up for when you come here. And usually I'm glad to do it because it's like, okay, I get 8 hours and I can come to my car and say, sorry, I couldn't respond because I was away for 8 hours. So
Respond to the 50 text messages that you
Exactly.
have or whatever. So what would you tell a prospective employee that's thinking about working at NSA and they hear you talk about, oh, I can't bring my phone in? What would you tell them to kind of alleviate that concern?
I think the agency does a really good job at trying to like fill in the gaps, right? So yeah, we can't have our phone, but like Vanessa mentioned, they're lockers, right? So essentially, if you have a long walk from the parking lot or you're taking the shuttle, like you can have your phone, you just have to drop it off in the locker. The agency also does a really good job where they have different areas per se that are unclassified and you can take your phones in. So even in like one of our buildings, there's a Starbucks and you can take your phone up there and you can just, if you need a break, right, you can go up and you can disconnect and be on your phone. So it may not be ideal, right, for somebody who is so used to being on their phone, but like Vanessa said, you get used to it. And then each desk should have, I think the standard IT environment, you should have an unclassified system. So you do have access to like your personal email if that was the case, right? I mean, of course, there are rules and parameters about what you can and can't do and how much time you spend, but it's not like it's 100%, depending on the mission, 100% disconnected from the real world.
So tell us a little bit about where you are now, like what your job is and a typical day at NSA.
So I'm with the Cybersecurity Collaboration Center, the CCC is what they call it, and I'm with the DIB division, which is the Defense Industrial Base. And so what we do, we provide different services to DIB companies. So far, I love it. Talking about bringing the phone in, I have to undo that because now I can bring my phone in. I can bring my, we're given laptops. And so everything that we do is on unclassified space. So it's honestly a different kind of atmosphere that I'm used to since I've been at NSA. Everything has been top secret, but now I'm on a different network, which is the unclassified network.
Can you telework in that position?
I can. So, yes, you are. I don't want to say how many days, but we are able to telework depending on what you're doing, the mission. But yeah, it's unclassified, so they are allowing you to do things from home.
Ashley, how about yourself?
So I am a chief of staff in the Network Services Organization. So it's within the Capabilities Directorate, and so Capabilities Directorate is kind of like the IT arm of NSA. So I work within that division, and I kind of manage all of our hiring, space, actions, all staff-related functions for the organization, because without networks, right, our agency wouldn't be running today. So our org is very vital, very critical to the agency. But yeah, so managing all the staff-related work. I have a small team, and small but mighty team. It's nice and fun, but it's a very technical organization. We have some very, very, very smart people that work there, and I learn a lot from them all the time. Network systems engineers, network managers, a lot of networking SMEs. So I'm again, I don't have a technical background, so definitely learning a lot.
Yeah, and I find that, just that we talk about diversity here and that we're so much better because we do have people from varying backgrounds and experience, and whether you're introverted or extroverted, that that's what helps us succeed.
Yeah.
You get perspectives from, all different types of, angles or whatever. So I think that's a strength that the agency certainly has.
Yep, I totally agree.
Yep. And the agency, they
Yeah.
encourage diversity, right? Even diversity in jobs, and
Yep.
because they encourage you to go out and explore, right? Maybe every 3 to 4 years, and just go out and explore. And then they want you to bring the knowledge back, right? Come back and tell us what you learned. So that is one thing that I really do like about the agency, is how they encourage that. They encourage that in all the employees.
That is true. I always make fun of my mom because she comes from the school of, being in a position for 20 years is like, that was like their badge of honor. But I'm like, no, it's actually, if you're in a position more than like 3-4 years, everyone's like, well, you don't want to explore, like, what's wrong? So I appreciate the encouragement, how they encourage you to go grow and to go do something else. You've been here for a while, go try something else. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think that's something that the agency encourages. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
seen that, John, in
I have.
your short time, but they want you to go
Yeah, they
out
do.
and try a different job, especially
Right.
if you might not have experience in a certain field. I mean, you have a comms background, but you could certainly learn about
Yep.
computer science here, and they encourage you to go out and find other opportunities here.
Definitely. Yeah.
It just, makes us all more well-rounded.
Yeah, the sky's the limit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for your time today. We really learned a lot about your journey here at the NSA. And thank you for sharing your unique perspective about the agency and encouraging everyone else to, become a part of our family.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for this time.
No problem. So thank you again for joining us for No Such Podcasts. I'm Brian,
And I'm John.
and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching this episode of No Such Podcasts from the National Security Agency. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next episode. For show transcripts and other information, please visit NSA.gov/podcast.